Hello, this is Julius from Basic Financials. Today we're going to talk about your Form P60. If you're employed at the end of the tax year, which is the 5th of April, which was just gone by, we've just gone by the 5th of April 2019, then you will get a P60, end of year pay summary, pay and tax summary. Now, some people already have received it, and some people will get it a bit later on. I think it's 31st of May is the time when you should get it by, but most people get it fairly soon after these days. Or you might not get it a print version, you might get it online, or it might be stored in your portal somewhere. Anyway, what I'd like to do today is to show you roughly what that P60 is and how to check it, at least from the tax point of view, which is a two-stage process really. There's the tax code that you need to think about, and then also if that tax code has then been shown through properly on your pay and tax, which it should do these days. There should be no reason for it not to be right, but it's always worth having a little look to check, and then you can see what's going on. So the P60, first of all, it's quite a good document to keep hold of for the future, because you might need it, for example, if you're applying for a mortgage. Quite often they'll want to see a copy of your P60. There are various other things, forms of identity. It has your address on, your national insurance number. It proves that you're employed or were employed on the 5th of April anyway. Various other things. So it's worth holding on to. It's a good piece of ID information. Now, you won't get a P60 if you're not employed at the 5th of April. If you left a job during the year, you would get a P45, a leaver form, P45. Now, if you hadn't restarted with another employer by the 5th of April, then you wouldn't get a P60 from them. That P45 shows the information you would need for, it will show your gross pay up to the point when you left, and also show the tax deducted up to the point you left. If you do start a new job, then what you should do is pass that P45 on to your new employer, and then they will be able to see what your previous pay has been and tax deducted for the year, and they would then be able to carry on a cumulative pay and tax method, which is the way it works. I think I've described that in a previous video that I've done. And then on your P60, if that were the case, you would see pay from previous employer or employment, because it could be more than one employment, and then pay from this employment, and then the total for the year, and it should work out the totals for the year. You should be able to check to see that the tax is correct. So, working out if the tax is correct, well, I'm going to assume that for the year ended 5th of April 2019, that you had a standard tax code, which basically means that you had 11,850 tax-free personal allowance. That would mean that you would have a 1185, say L, tax code. Now, the other important thing is that if it's on a week one, month one basis, it might not work, but normally it would be not on a week one, month one basis, so there wouldn't be a cross in any box saying week one, month one, and you're working on a cumulative basis. So therefore, by the end of the tax year, you should have received your total allowance of 11,850 tax-free. Now, the other band that we think about is the basic rate band. So the first 11,850 of your taxable pay is tax-free. Then, for the year ended 5th of April 2019, the next £34,500 for that tax year was basic rate. And that's 20%. And then after that, you'd be taxed at 40%. So the way to check it is have a look at your total for the year. You're going to be looking at your total gross pay. Take off 11,850 tax-free. If your pay is less than the total of the basic rate band and your personal allowance, then all your tax would be at 20%. So you can then take your gross pay, take off the 11,850 times by 20%, and you should find that your tax is the same as the amount as tax to date, or tax for this, tax for the on your P60. If your pay is more than the personal allowance of 11,850 and the basic rate band of 34,500, then the first 34,500 after the 11,850 would be taxed at 20%, and the rest of it would be taxed at 40%. So you can then check to see how that looks. I think you won't be able to check your national insurance contributions. That's something you can only really do from your pay slips, because national insurance isn't worked out on a cumulative basis. It's worked out on each single pay date so you might get paid weekly, as that's just done for that week, or it might get done monthly if you get paid monthly. So you can only really work it out or check it from your P60, from your pay slips, and that's not for this video. But I hope that helps you to just have a little look to see if your P60 works out okay. As I say, it shouldn't really be any problem these days where everything's computerized, so it should be okay. But at least you can see and check, and you'll know what's going on. Now, the other thing is your tax code. As I said, I was assuming that your tax code was the 1185L. Now, it could be that your tax code isn't 1185L for some reason. For example, you might have some employment expenses that you regularly have, and it gets added to your tax code. Or you might have a benefit in kind. You might have a car benefit, and they try and collect the tax due on that by deducting it from your tax code. Now, if that's the case, say for example your tax code was 1050L, that would mean that you're instead of getting the 11,850 1185L, 1050L would mean that you're getting 10,500 tax free. So you could still check to see whether your tax is right. You would be taking off, instead of 11,850 from the gross pay, you would be taking off 10,500 as a tax-free amount, and then you still got the 34,500 at 20%, the basic rate band, and then it would be 40% after that. So just because your tax code might be different doesn't mean you can't check your P60. Having said that, if your tax code is different, you really want to know that it's different for a good reason. You should have received some sort of notice to show why your tax code is that. It should break down what's in that tax code, your personal allowance and any benefits in kind. And I've done another video about that somewhere. So check that your tax code is what you would expect it to be. It could also include underpayments from previous years. It gets very difficult to actually check that it's right when you start happening to get that sort of thing in there. But there are notes on those explanations of your tax code, so have a read through them. Yeah, I think we'll leave it at that. It's amazing how much you can get into with a P60, isn't it? But yeah. Thank you very much for listening, and subscribe and let me know if there's anything you want me to talk about. And thanks again.